So hello guys, I am your host Bison. So White opens the game with the English opening and Karpov develops his knight on f6, which is called Anglo-Indian defense. This is one of the best games of Anatoly Karpov where his opponent was Robert Hubner. This game was played in round 7 of the Tilburg Interpolis tournament. Okay, then White develops his knight to c3 controlling the d5 square. After this, c5 by Karpov, taking space on the queen side and controlling the d4 square. After this, White develops his another knight to f3 and then Karpov pushed his d-pawn, asking for pawn exchange as well as opening the diagonal for the light square bishop. Then White takes on d5 and after knight takes d5 then comes g3. Here White is preparing to develop his bishop on g2, an idea as old as that one friend who still uses a Nokia phone in 2025. Then Karpov mirrors with g6, preparing for the move bishop g7. After this, d3, opening the diagonal for the queen as well as for the dark square bishop. Bishop to g7 attacking the knight, but White defends it by bishop to d2. Then Karpov played b6, solidifying the pawn structure as well as allowing the flexibility to the bishop. Queen to a4 check and Karpov defends it by his bishop, attacking the queen, and then queen to h4, pinning this e7 pawn, and if this pawn further moves, then White will exchange the queen. Then bishop to c6, defending the knight, then bishop to g2. Here White is preparing for castle and then comes e6, asking for queen exchange, and White takes on d8. After king takes d8, you can see that black castling chances are gone, but it doesn't matter now because simply queens are traded off the board. And then he added his another piece into the game by rook to c1. Knight to a6 by Karpov, opening the part for the rook, as well as knight may be rerouted to c7. Then White takes on d5, bishop takes d5, attacking the a2 pawn. But firstly, White played bishop to c3, asking for bishop exchange, and Karpov simply declines and played f6. He wants to keep his dark square bishop, and after this, a3, he defends his pawn. And now Karpov brings his king towards the e7 square, connecting the both rooks. And after this, White castled short side. And rook at h goes to c8. Maybe he wants to expand towards the queen side. Knight to d2, asking for bishop exchange. But knight to c7. He wants to develop his knight on d5 after bishop gets traded. But White simply doesn't trade the bishops, and he exploded towards the queen side by playing b4, trying to break the pawn chain. And after this, Karpov exchanged the bishop and then he takes on b4. After this, White takes with the check, king to d7 and bishop to c3, pinning the f6 pawn. But after this, knight to d5, creating the pressure on the bishop, and here White made a big mistake by playing bishop to b2. Here White idea is to add more defense to the rook, but this is a mistake because here Karpov finds a great move, which is bishop to h6, attacking the knight as well as pinning the rook. And if black tries to capture, or we can say that tries to exchange the rook by rook takes c8, then after rook takes c8, knight to c4, attacking the f6 pawn, but simply king to e7. And you can see that black will play f5 next and the knight will be trapped. And black will place his rook towards the c2 square next, creating immense pressure towards the white position. Hence, after bishop to h6, he sees this all and he defends his knight by playing e3. After this, now pause the video and find the next crushing move played by Karpov. In this position, Karpov sacrificed his bishop by bishop takes e3. because after f takes e3, knight takes e3 check, forking the king and the rook, and after king to f3, knight takes f1 and knight takes f1. Now you can see that white knight is still undeveloped in the next, and in next move black will capture the rook, plus black has a strong connected pawn chains which will and then after this rook is in first rank, and later white will completely black will completely dominate the position. Hence, instead of this move, bishop to b2. So what is the correct move order? Here, after the move knight to d5, the correct move is not to play bishop b2, it is to play bishop to a1. Why it is a good move? Because suppose if black plays the exact same move order like I discussed earlier, which is bishop to h6, which happens in game e3, bishop takes e3, f takes e3, knight takes e3 check, king to f2, knight takes f1, rook takes f1. Okay, so what's the difference between this position and the position which I showed you earlier? Okay, so you can see that here white knight is super active, controlling the c4 and e5. This blocks black plan like e5 or pushing the pawns. And look at the black rooks, they are struck if they try to invade the first rank, which is rook on f1, but as you can see that our white rook on f1 will shut this first rank. Okay, so yeah, and black has two rooks, but the rook on a is struck at the corner. Meanwhile, white pieces are well coordinated. The king is safe, and it has the close center, means that black can't easily break through. Material wise, black is a pawn up, but their king is exposed, and their rooks are passive. That's why we call this a dynamically equal position. White has activity and piece coordination, while black has extra material but no real breakthrough. Suppose in this position, if black tries to enter towards the second rank by playing rook to c2, then simply king to e3, defending the knight, and if rook to a2, which will be a blunder because then bishop takes on f6, and after rook takes a3, simply bishop to d4, and clearly you can see that now in this position the white is better because white bishop is very active, white knight is also active, and the rook can move towards the x7 square and grab this pawn. So now you will understand the now I hope that you will understand. Now let's move towards our position. So this is the position. After this, Karpov simply captured on c1, and after bishop takes c1, then Karpov brings his rook to c8, attacking the bishop, and after bishop to b2, which attacks the pawn, here rook to c2. Okay, after bishop takes f6, here Karpov placed his rook to a2, and no one can protect this pawn. Okay, so king to e3, white defends the d3 pawn, but simply rook takes a3, and after this white develops his knight towards t2. Now Karpov advances his b pawn, and then comes knight to e4 by white. After this, Karpov pushed his b pawn further, and king to d4, trying to stop the pawns, but simply a5, strengthening the pawn chain, and then white brings his king to c4, and clearly in the next move white will play bishop to b2 to stop this. Hence, to stop this, Karpov played rook to a2, stopping the move bishop to b2. Okay, so h4 trying to expand, but this is of no use because Karpov brings his king further, and here whites make an inaccuracy by playing bishop to d4, covering the diagonal so that rook can't move. But here it's better for white to play king to b3, which hits the rook as well as which also create a blockade towards this pawn. Okay, so rook to e2 by Karpov, and bishop to e5, creating a blockade towards the e pawn, After this, rook to e1 by Karpov, and clearly the next move might be rook to h1, hitting this pawn, and hence to defend this, white played bishop to f6, defending the b pawn, as well as in the next move, and in black will push his a pawn. Yeah, so rook to b1, you can see that here black will push his e pawn as well as defend the b4 square so that king can't take. Hence, after seeing this, bishop to e7, stopping black to push a pawn, because if a pawn get pushed, then bishop will takes this. Hence, after this, e5. So g4, rook to c1 check, king to b3, king to d5, preparing for king d4, bishop to g5, attacking the rook, but simply rook to b1 check, king to c2, attacking the rook, rook to h1, and after this, white tries to stop the pawn by playing king to b3, but Karpov simply played rook to h3, attacking the d3 pawn, but white gives the check by knight to f6, and after king to d4, he grabbed this pawn, but this is of no use because simply rook takes d3 check, king to c2, a4, and no one can stop these pawns. But here white tries to stop it by playing bishop to e7, attacking the b4 pawn, but this is of no use because simply rook to c3 check, and after king to b1, the final move by Karpov is rook to c7, and white resigned because white has to lose one of his piece. What an amazing game by Anatoly Karpov. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked this video. Hit that subscribe button for more. I am your host Bison signing off. Bye bye.